So, when you actually start to move out of quarantine, which is going to actually begin for some of you towards the end of February and others towards March, the middle of May 2017. As you start to move out of the quarantine, there's going to be a lot of movement for you. It's going to be an accelerated experience. So it's not about amplification anymore, it's about acceleration. Because when you're stuck in one place, it amplifies. When you move back out here, remember you are moving back out into timelines. You are moving back out into third dimensionality, but you're going to be able to navigate it much more clearly, much more efficiently, and with a lot more ease. Which means it's less resistance. Less resistance. So get ready. This quarantine period is incredibly important because if you actually spend the time going within, you're going to get very clear about what you want to do. When this starts to open and you spill back out into the world. Do you understand? Yes?
So that brings my question. In the asking, is it asking from a point of view of want or need or both?
It's very interesting you asked that question. Did everybody hear the question? When you were asking the question and you were in the quarantine, when you were in the quarantine?
No, when you were talking.
When you were out here.
Moving, no longer being in the necessity for exchange, but.
So when you're asking.
Ask your consciousness for what you want or need. That's my question.
So when you're asking from a place of not exchange, are you asking about what you want or what you need?
Yeah.
That assumption, that very question is based on the assumption that there is a difference between what your ego wants and what your consciousness wants.
Yes.
That was before you entered the quarantine. Very significant point. Please pay attention. Everything you've been through in the last 6 years means that you are moving in a position now, those of you that are listening to this conversation, you are in a position now where you must start to trust what you call your egoic mind. Why? Because in here, there's no separation. There's no separation. You have been taught in many contexts over many years about the separation between the egoic mind and consciousness. Yes? We need to get the ego out of the way so consciousness can do what it needs to do. Consciousness is going to do what it needs to do anyway. The ego is not powerful enough to actually block consciousness. Were you aware? So what we say is, have confidence, Blessed One and others, that whatever you are asking for is naturally being driven by consciousness in this space. And therefore, this is about you starting to trust what you have perceived to be your ego. Because you have perceived your ego to be that which blocks consciousness, but what we say to you is the ego is actually a tool for consciousness. It is a tool for consciousness. It is the filter for consciousness. It was specifically designed. Each of you has a unique ego, agree? That was specifically designed so that consciousness could express in a unique fashion through your particular filter. So it's time for you, instead of shutting down the filter, to actually start to use it and actually start to trust it. So if your ego wants something, consciousness is still there. Do you understand? Not about separating them out anymore. It's just about trusting yourselves. You can start to trust what you call your ego, we would call your unique filter. You can start to trust your unique filter once you have moved out of the cycle of the karmic law. Do you see it? And you have, so you can trust it. Did we answer your question? Yes.
With going within, I've got two questions. Going within, are there any tools or specific ways that we should go within quarantine? And the other one, are there any, because it's the physical quarantine, or partly physical body, are there any specific symptoms in quarantine or symptoms that we'll know that we're coming out of it? And is there any way we should treat our bodies while we're in quarantine?
Quarantine is really about listening to the daily rhythm. Because when you move into quarantine, you're no longer subject to this. And so for many of you, what's happening is one day you want this food, one day you want that food. One day you want to exercise, one day you don't. One day you're sleeping, one day you're not. One day you like this color, the next day you can't stand it. There's no rhythm in quarantine. Do you understand? So it's about listening. And it's a brilliant introduction for you into the new paradigm because you can't adhere to any rhythm here. It's about learning to trust the body, learning to trust the consciousness. And it's also because there's no external reference points for you. So there's nothing to tell you what to do. In fact, many of you in this space cannot get advice if your lives depended on it. If you are seeking advice, for example, if you're going to get a reading from somebody, or you're looking for a medical diagnostic, you are very likely to find that anything external that you are seeking in this space, you will not find. It will be like a non-response or a... Do you see? Yes?
As you described
We will go back to your question. Yes?
it kind of relates to that question actually. In that space of quarantine and the lack of traction, that's the best way I'm going to kind of explain it.
Yes.
I'm finding it difficult to explain this, but for the first time for me, in a very long time, I find I am just trusting that.
Your own rhythm,
Yes.
your internal voice.
And I find that there are no barriers if I'm trusting that.
Yes.
As long as I'm trusting that.
Yes.
Things do seem to actually.
Yes, that's what this is designed for. It's an introduction period until your body catches up with you. Do you understand? Yes, so the internal voice. In this space, it's not a case of ego or consciousness. So your question about how to listen, was that the question? How to go within. It's really a space of, because you are unable to access what is happening on the exterior reality, it is really about using the opportunity to go within. So whatever practices you need, whatever practices you use, for some it's meditative state, for some it's stillness, for some it's quiet, for some it's doing whatever brings you joy. There's no rule. It's really about just knowing that everything that you seek is here because you won't actually be able to access anything externally. Making sense to you? So those of you who are frustrated because you're not getting your answers, it's time to look within. Did we answer your question?
Yeah.
So trusting the rhythm each day, because there's no cycle anymore in here. Allow your body to do what it wants to do. Opportunity to listen to the daily wisdom of the body. What does it want? What doesn't it want? No rules. Do you understand? This is a state of no rule. There are no rules in here. You also tend to be a little bit invisible when you're in that space. Agree? No one's really seeing you. Who's trying to get visible while they're in here? Good luck. But the beauty of this is that when you do emerge, everything's just going to become so much easier for you. It will be a completely different feeling after March to May 2017. And this is where acceleration happens. There's an interesting galactic alignment happening. There's interesting things happening with the timelines. You're going to start to see what speed really means. Many of you are concerned about the collapse. We're going to talk about that in a moment, because that's a topic we need to be speaking to you about in this evening, is the collapse. We're talking about the emergence, but we're also going to talk about the collapse because they coincide. But moving forward for yourselves, when the opening occurs, you will know when the opening occurs because there will be invitations. The opening happens when there is invitation. So people will start to be seeing you, you'll be invited, you'll be drawn into something, and things happen very, very easily. It is also the point in time where things that you have been wanting to happen and visualizing actually start to happen. So it is really a synergistic marriage between the exterior world and what's going on in your own internal reality. It is when the exterior world actually starts mirroring what's going on in you. Because at the moment, your external reality is not mirroring you, agree? And this is what you began in 2011 when things like, and methodologies and processes like what I think I create, and if I think positive, I can have positive experiences. The beginning of 2009 is when all of that started to crumble. And so many of you came to us and said, well, these things aren't working anymore. And so you've had to be understanding and practicing and learning that your exterior world does not replicate what's happening within you. This has been very frustrating for many of you, agree? Why am I trying so hard? Why am I doing all the right things and still nothing's happening? So you're actually experiencing now where there is no reference to the exterior world, it's just you. And when the opening happens, everything starts to reflect again, but with speed and accuracy. Yes? It's like having a highly intensified multi-dimensional mirror. That's what you're going into. Why? Why are you moving into a reality that is akin to a highly intensified multi-dimensional mirror? Because you are the creators of what comes next. So whatever you express, whatever your ideas are, whatever your inclinations are, ease. You see, you're not here to work anymore and you're not here to exchange. Get out of exchange. Not for you anymore. If you're going to get along and actually start to construct new things on this planet, you've got to move out of exchange. It keeps you limited. Do you understand? Yes? Very well.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
What about if you're in an everyday job where you work for money? Do you stay in that?
Are you doing it for exchange?
Yes.
Is it satisfying?
Yes.
Really?
At this point?
The only thing that navigates you here, the only compass here, is does it give me stimulation? Is there curiosity and fascination in this for me? That's your compass. Curiosity and fascination. If it's not being driven by curiosity and fascination, you're in this. Why? Because consciousness only creates from curiosity and fascination. It's the only reason it creates. Humans, why do they create? Survival? Desire? Any other reason? So can you see the difference? How many of you are still in constructs because of survival or desire? A few. Most of humanity. But if you're going to start operating from consciousness and start multiplying your design in the exterior world through these multidimensional mirror-like effects, you need to be acting from curiosity and fascination. If you're acting from curiosity and fascination, you will experience speed, you will experience an ease of path, yes, and an amplification of experience. Yes?
How does that relate to having, let's say, for example, children and stuff like that, which is sometimes a responsibility and not always a, curiosity?
Children, responsibility.
You know where I'm coming from. So
Yes.
It's not always a pleasure.
No, it's not. So if it's not a pleasure, why are you interchanging with them? Why are you exchanging with them? And we see very clearly that with yourself, if you don't mind us using you as an example, as with many others, many parents work in a paradigm of exchange. They don't realize it, but if you treat your children nicely, surely they should treat you nicely. Yes? If you pay for them to go to an elite school, surely they should perform. Yes? If you put a lot of effort into them to teach them to be courteous, surely they should make you proud in front of others and not embarrassed. Do you see it? It's the mechanics of exchange. How many relationships on the planet are developed. So, dealing with children. When was the last time you considered your children to be fascinating and had curiosity about them? Do you see? How often do we, as humans, how often do humans sit and really listen with fascination to their child like they've never seen them before? Who is this curious creature? What is it that you have to say? How is it that you think? Do you see? Do you know what that does? That opens up a myriad of new doorways for relationship. Do you see? Yes. Exchange. You'll never look at this symbol the same way again. Do you see it? Something to think about. Very well. We are going to give you a moment to refresh yourselves, and then we will continue.